What are Obama and Harris doing? The felon booed at his own golf course? Courts trying to overturn the free and fair election of the North Carolina Supreme Court race? Elon's stock market meltdown? And is Social Security safe? Let's look into all that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to all the new subscribers, to everybody who is subscribed to the channel. If you like, watch, share, comment on the videos, a huge thank you. If you've donated money to the channel, huge thank you. I do have a second channel in which I think I'm going to start to mostly focus on cold cases and then monthly type energy updates like teroscopes and stuff once it gets off the ground and running. So I'll leave a link to the second channel in the description of this. You can check it out. I think I'll be posting a new cold case video probably shortly after I post this one. Excuse me, possibly before I post this one even. Okay, so let's start with what Obama and Harris are doing. So Obama and Harris have been speaking out publicly. Obama in particular was encouraging colleges, universities, other big entities to resist the Trump agenda and not fall prey to just doing whatever it is the felon says to do. And Harris is starting to be more public as well. She posted a post about the protests. The protests were highly successful. If you go and look back at my 2025 predictions, I predicted there'd be huge protests, even before all the craziness started. I could just see them. They're just going to get bigger too. And they're going to get more and more successful. So we need to keep that up. Yeah, this card keeps popping out, right? The Six of Cups. It's all about the next generation. What are we leaving the children, right? What are our children going to grow up in? So that seems to be a common theme in all the readings. But what are Obama and Harris up to? So I think for President Obama in particular, he's trying to fill the void of silence that's currently going on because he's the only one that can attract enough media attention to accomplish that and to raise the alarm bells. I think there's a little bit more to it. So what are Obama and Harris up to? It's about money. It's about giving and receiving of money. It's about starting fundraising now, not for just 2026, but for 2028. And particularly for Democratic candidates in House districts that need to be flipped for the Democrats to take control in 2026, and for Senate candidates in 2026, where there might actually be some opportunities for Democrats to win. There aren't too many states if you look at the map, but like Maine and North Carolina seem like reasonable opportunities. Florida feels like a stretch at this point, but if things get worse, it might not be. Uh, the cross is the challenge is the Eight of Swords coming out from the confinement. It's not normal for ex-presidents to come out and speak. It's okay, they come out and they might campaign for somebody during the election cycle, but to speak negatively about a current administration without a current campaign going on is pretty rare. The only person that ever did that was the felon himself. So I think they're ready to fight fire with fire. And I think that's the message they're trying to get across. Yeah, unlikely partnerships. I think we're going to see some teaming up here. And I think it's important that we are mindful that while some partnerships are maybe not what we like, if the common goal is the same, perhaps we go with it. So I think we'll see some really rich people start to give a lot of money to campaign ads, to super PACs, to stuff like that to help support Democratic causes and oppose the felons administration. And Tom Steyer comes to mind, as does Bill Gates and Bill Gates's ex-wife. So, you know, generally, Bernie Sanders will rail against billionaires, and I get it. But if the billionaires are on the side of trying to help the agenda that we're on, we can take advantage of them as much as they can take advantage of us. So there are things behind the scenes that we can't see yet. I think there's going to be an announcement made relatively soon, and I think Obama and Harris are teeing that up. I don't think it involves either one of them, but they're teeing up the atmosphere, the excitement to get the fundraising there so that when people start to announce that they're running for president in 2028 or they're running for Senate in 2026 or they're running in a House race that's really competitive, that the funds are already there. Like the fundraising base is there. They want an end to this very dark cycle. We all do. It's been painful. It's been overwhelming. Every day feels like a year. It's exhausting. In the near term future, we've got to break through the apathy that still exists amongst the MAGA, well, maybe not MAGA, but the people that voted for the felon who aren't really quite that MAGA. They're still kind of confused, perhaps. They're wondering, is there a big long game to these tariffs? Is there something that's actually going to make us come out ahead better in the long run? And they need to digest that a little bit. So that's the near term future. And I think that's kind of the part of breaking through that. A lot of them did vote for President Obama back in 2008. They might not have voted for him in 2012, but a lot of them did in 2008 when the economy was an absolute disaster in 2008. They're planting the seeds for what needs to be done. And what needs to be done is to reveal the truth. And this is important, and this is probably somewhat controversial, but the truth shouldn't be controversial, but it perhaps slightly is. In the following sense, Democrats need to stick to the truth. They need to talk about economic problems. It's okay that they go into social issues. It's okay if they want to talk about voter suppression, but they shouldn't go into fringe conspiracy theories. They should leave that to other people on social media platforms to take care of that, like the things we kind of discuss. Mainstream Democrats shouldn't be discussing those things if they want to be successful. The card's always coming up in the hopes and fears. It's about the next generation. Ultimately, you know, I'll tell you a story about maybe 9 years ago. I guess it was probably about 9 years ago. I had a colleague who's very religious, and uh, we were discussing kind of life in general. And I had a friend, a pretty close friend, pass of cancer at a fairly young age. And we were talking about that, and I was like, it's kind of like, well, what do you think the point of life is? And he said, well, the point of life is to make things better for the next generation. And then years later, when Biden proposed a $10,000 student loan forgiveness, this colleague of mine was so against it. And I said, I thought things were about making things better for the next generation. And There was no defense to that. So it's about that. It's about being involved on personal levels, building personal relationships so that you can kind of persuade people with the truth, not with fringe conspiracy theories, but with the truth. There's a lot of anxiety. That's to be expected with the Nine of Swords. Bombshells and surprises coming up. I think Democrats might really do something substantial in the next coming days. Messages coming forward. It's 2 pages in a row. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some candidates announcing some real fundraising. Why? Because we've got to deal with the deceit and the deception. We're going to talk about the North Carolina Supreme Court race here in a second. The Four of Swords, people have rested. I think they're ready to go at it. And people are making choices. So I think Obama and Harris are just trying to motivate the base early so that they can be influential, and particularly amongst the people that are ages 16, 17, maybe even 15, that will be able to vote in 2028. So the North Carolina Supreme Court race was in November. It still hasn't been decided. An appellate court ruled that 65,000 ballots were invalid, which would probably hand the race to the Republican. The Democrat won the race by 700 and some votes out of a whole bunch of votes cast. The question is, will this court ruling stand or will it be reversed? And if so, when? So let's just ask, will the Democrat be sworn into the Supreme Court? So if one plan works, doesn't work, try another. I think that's for the Democrat. So she's already appealed the decision up to the next level. The Democrat Allison, or resworn, and I think she was already on the Supreme Court. I think this is will be her second term. I think so. I yeah, I think these judges that ruled to throw out these ballots are gonna get a mouthful from the court that's above them on how we don't throw out votes because they're somewhat inconvenienced. Yeah, it's gonna start. It's gonna be anew once she appeals it, the full card. She's gonna start her new term on the court. Might take a couple months. The challenge is the Empress card, Russia disinformation about these 65,000 votes. Yeah, fiery messages. I think this is the court above that appellate court handing down a decision that just totally chastises the two judges that voted to throw out 65,000 votes. In the past, she's on a downward trajectory, but it's in the past. Things are going to start to improve. It's going to take a little while. Things are coming to the surface for her. The real revelation of this plan is going to come out. And part of that is going to be, in Republican areas and in Democratic areas that allowed this type of voting, that was the Republicans' plan in case the election was close. It'll come out. Something like that will come out. She's going to stand victorious and he'll be wounded in battle in the near future. So I think things are good there because it's about the voters. The voters decided. You can't really go against the voters. Truth and logic will prevail as we go up the higher courts. Again, the Six of Cups and the hopes and fears. It's about the next generation, having faith in elections. The Star card of protection for her. These are all yes cards. He'll be walking away and she'll stand there with her victory. So it seems a little scary right now, but we're going through some choices, but the guardrails are in place, right? The guardrails are there. It's okay to be weary, but I do think ultimately she will be sworn in and those votes will not be thrown out. Okay, so the felon was booed at as he came in from the golf course. And uh, let's look at that. And then we'll look at Elon's stock market meltdown. And then we'll look at is Social Security safe after that. Okay. What do we need to know about the felon being booed? Need to know. This is also was on the Saturday with all those protests. So what do we need to know about the felon? Is this a sign of bigger problems for him? He looked absolutely horrible, by the way. I'll probably use that picture as a thumbnail because I find it humorous to use pictures that make him look bad. I, I think people that have money in the stock market are just mad. And I think that's the people that were at the golf club. Yeah, it's somewhat juvenile behavior, I guess, to boo at somebody, but um, his immaturity is coming back to haunt him. People are going to react immature to him because he's immature with the Page of Swords. The problem is juggling money, overseas money. This is about the tariffs. The problem is the tariffs have really made people mad. Not necessarily because they've gone into effect, and not necessarily because prices have gone up yet, but just because the stock market has gone down so much. We get a surprising new beginning underneath. I think this is a new awakening for him that no, he really couldn't shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. Well, he might actually get away with that. But if you start taking people's money away or making them lose money, can't get away with that. Again, the Six of Cups in the past, it's like intergenerational wealth was in the past. Like parents and grandparents thinking about leaving inheritances, suddenly they don't feel as big, perhaps. You have to remember the people were at this golf course that booed him, so energies of theirs. Unlikely partnerships. I think this is the Democrats and really rich people becoming partners. And I think it's going to be important for the Democratic base to accept that. Not to accept policy proposals from them, but to accept the money graciously from them. Yeah, in the near term future, we see loss, the Five of Cups. This also could refer to health. We've done readings on that. He's definitely at a crossroads of sorts, the Two of Swords, in his mind of kind of wondering, you know, I don't think he thinks it was worth it. I know that's an odd thing to say, but I don't think he thinks running for president the first time was worth it. Like the last since 2016, I think he's been pretty miserable. Although I think he's always been pretty miserable. We get the card for the Democrats. He knows where voters are heading. In the hopes and fears, we get Elon Musk. He was hoping Musk was his savior in some sense, and it turns out that he was actually his nightmare in some sense. We get Russia. I think information about Russia is going to come out. Why weren't they involved in the tariffs, for example? We get the Seven of Cups, illusion and delusion, just really chaotic thinking, not really thinking things through. Yeah, I mean, how many times do we pull this card too for him? The Ten of Swords. It could be being stabbed in the back, complete and utter downfall, the end of a very dark cycle, could just be the end of him as well. So, uh, this is very consistent with the last reading that we did on him and the tariffs. I think this is just, it just kind of takes him down. People have to choose a path, and he's not the path they're going to choose. Things are coming up from underneath the surface, and we're going to get wish fulfillment. And I think by wish fulfillment, what that means is he's going to go away. I've always felt that. I know people keep asking me when. Well, it doesn't exactly work that way, but I don't think it'll be, I'd be surprised if it goes past September, but things can change, right? You know, suddenly you go to the doctor that you didn't, the energies didn't pick up on before. So, um, okay, Elon's stock market meltdown. So let's just check in on Elon. How's Elon? It's this meltdown, saying he is opposed to the tariffs. I have a feeling that's not true. But publicly kind of coming out against some of the things the film's done. It's like the story of Icarus flying too close to the sun, right? He didn't realize that he would have been better being quiet. Like his reputation's gone, a large amount of his wealth is gone, still very rich, but it's now really in the public that some of his kids dislike him. You know, a lot of people believe that, he's of the persuasion of the people that were running Germany in the late 30s and 40s, early 40s. Yes, he's regretting the partnership with the felon. He thought that he could use him, get him elected, help get him elected, and take advantage of that dynamic. And I think now he realizes he was wrong. The problem is he's isolated and alone. Not literally isolated and alone, but that's how he feels. And I think he probably feels that regardless. Yeah. What's on his mind is the felon, King of Pentacles. Get the Queen of Cups in the past. Um, yeah, he used to be slightly empathetic to the felon and his plight, and was going to take advantage of that because he had things that would make the felon do things that he wanted to do. Get the Nine of Pentacles. He still has everything he needs. He just needs to realize he didn't need that much, right? What's the difference between having $400 billion and having, $150 billion, let's say? I don't think there's any difference, right? You still can buy whatever you want, except for maybe contentment. The Knight of Cups in the near future, emotional messages coming forward in the near future. I'm not Let's keep going. I'm going to come back to that card. Pausing, suspension, rethinking, support. Surprising new beginnings. The Ace of Cups. Strength is in the hopes and fears. He wishes he could go back to the position of strength. When he was kind of admired back in the, late 90s, early 2000s. Well, maybe later than that. The early 2010s. It's a new start for him financially. I think he now realizes that he can't just this Jim Cramer always referred to Tesla as a cult stock because he never understood why it was going up, because Tesla's never really made any money and it really doesn't make any sense. So I think he's now keenly aware of this new financial situation. Lots of messages coming forward about finances, could be health too, but I think it's finances. Unlikely partnerships in the future. I kind of feel like he might leave the US. I don't know. Justice is coming. It's interesting. What is this about? So it's emotional messages coming forward in the near future. And justice underneath with the wheel of fortune. And doing something I don't think he really wanted to do. The Four of Cups, drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak. I'm not sure. I'll see if I can't figure out what that's about. Your future. Could have to do with his daughter becoming more public. Not sure. Okay, so Social Security, is Social Security safe? A lot of you have asked me to read on this. I have never sensed that there's going to be an issue with this. I think it's all talk. At least those of you that are currently on Social Security or over, 55, probably there won't be any changes because they have to kind of, if they're going to make changes, that has to go down. They have to start affecting people below 40, right? Because people have already started planning. They're just, I think the last time they made changes to Social Security, it only affected people under the age of 45, maybe. And they changed the like full benefits to 67 instead of 65, something like that. Now, whether they adjust the payments for the cost of living, that's something that the administration does have a control over a little bit more. So, will Social Security payments to people on Social Security go out on time and be the same amounts? Yeah, I think so. There might be the, occasional mistake, which might be hard to rectify, given that it's hard to make phone calls these days to them, but I don't see any wide scale. No, yeah, having everything you need, the Nine of Pentacles. Uh, the challenge is the fear, feeling isolated and alone. And I get it, right? It's hard to trust that things will be okay. That makes perfect sense. And I don't know that, if you have a way of making a contingency plan, perhaps, but so many people just depend on only Social Security that um it's very frightening. You get the Eight of Wands, things moving quickly, and as expected. Yeah, firing messages in the past. I think they heard loud and clear when they first started talking about cutting Medicaid, that Medicaid and parts of Medicare, they did end some prescription drug coverage in Medicare, like Ozempic, I think, is no longer on the cheaper list of prescription drugs, things like that. It's about the voters. They know that it would just be widespread pandemonium if all of a sudden people weren't receiving Social Security checks, because one, it's their money. It's not like the government's giving you money. You paid into Social Security, it's your money, right? You're just getting it back. And, you know, people who aren't on Social Security but have parents on Social Security will also be taking to the streets. People who receive survivor benefits, with kids, young kids, they'll be taking to the street. There's just, there's so much that would go wrong. I just don't see them doing it. I hope I'm right. Yeah, circles of support and celebration in the three of cups in the near future. We might even see an announcement from John Thune comes to mind saying, there will be no changes to Social Security. Uh, Page of Swords. There's a spy in the camp of the Trump administration. Not sure who that is yet. I've been trying to figure it out. Not quite sure, but they would leak anything that's going to affect Social Security, I think is the point of the card. And then that would lead to massive walks on Washington, protests like we saw on Saturday. And I just don't think they'll get away with the Eight of Cups. They're walking away from the idea of touching it because it just doesn't serve them anymore. They realize that it's like one of the main things that the US is proud of, right? Is that we have this retirement program. It doesn't pay for everything in some sense, right? It's hard to live on Social Security just by itself. But, it's a huge accomplishment compared to the way things were before FDR was president, right? So the Nine of Swords and the hopes and fears, it makes perfect sense that there's anxiety about this. It's perfectly sane to be anxious about it. It really is. Uh, the seeds have been planted. They know that it would go badly if they do it because it's about the next generation, the Six of Cups. I don't think they maybe the Knight of Wands firing messages coming forward. I don't think they maybe had thought through how much people like in the ages of 35 to 55 care about Social Security in the sense that their parents are on it. I don't think they had really thought that part through. And yeah, we get wish fulfillment. There's nothing there. Uh, New beginnings. There'll be something comes forward to calm everybody down, and um, strength to defeat the deceit and the deception. And also, even if they try, there's the courts there, the Hierophant, and firing new leadership if necessary. So I I really do think Social Security is just fine. Um, will they make changes to it? That's a slightly different question. Will they raise, now the maximum benefit will be 69 instead of 67 for people under 30? That's possible. But I think people that are currently on Social Security don't really have anything to worry about. And if you're about to become on Social Security, I don't think you have anything to worry about either, other than being able to get through and communicate with people. That I think could be a problem because of all the positions they've cut. Um, okay. Uh, Thank you very much. I'll be back with another video soon.